tape one.
Tape one inserted.
Ready to mix effect into one.
10 seconds back to studio.
And ready to come on one.
Rolling.
Tell we're coming back. And ready to take one. Here we go.
2, 1.
This week, the Citizenship and National Service Act, putting citizens to work for America.
The citizenship entails rights and responsibilities, as well as the obligation of government to provide particular types of services.
Animal cruelty. How do you view this subject? These stories and more coming up. Television Production Center on the campus of James Madison University. This is JMU Today.
Hello and thank you for joining us. This is JMU Today and I'm Amy Cushman.
And I'm Bert Morris. And Tracy's here because we have an exciting story in sports coming up later on.
That's right. We got a picture-perfect game, and we'll keep you up to date on that later on in the show.
Great. Now we'll have a complete look at sports with you a little bit later on, like you say.
Right. Several hundred JMU students gathered on the hill behind the Warren Campus Center April 12th through the 14th to hear campus evangelist Cliff Kneckley speak. Cliff spoke to students about Christianity as well as other religions and ethics. He also engaged in a question and answer session with the students, allowing them to ask him questions directly as well as speak their own views and beliefs. Cliff makes appearances at 30 colleges nationwide, which are sponsored by InterVarsity. According to the JMU InterVarsity campus staff worker, Marty Beyond Christiani, the club invited Cliff to JMU in order to present Christianity within an intellectual context and to make students aware of Christianity as a viable option as a worldview.
While at JMU, Beyond Christiani stated that the overall reaction, that is, to the appearance by Cliff was very well for students and faculty. And let's see, InterVarsity is planning to bring Cliff back next spring and hopes to set up a debate between Cliff and the JMU faculty members. Well, James Madison University's art department is sponsoring Super Summer 89. It's a series of free art workshops, July 10th through the 20th. Our professors from JMU and the State University of New York at Buffalo will lead several different workshops at Orkney Springs, a resort in Shenandoah County. JMU professors Jerry Coulter and Barbara Lewis will head 2 of the workshops. Class demonstrations and lectures will be held throughout the 10 days to develop the skills and techniques emphasizing the image as an expressive form.
The Citizenship and National Service Act of 1989, more commonly known as the National Service Bill, is currently up for vote in the United States Congress. Field producer Yvonne Elliott has more.
The National Service Bill was introduced to Congress on January 25, 1989. The bill proposed the establishment of a Citizens Corps through which various types of national service would be performed. Service to prepare young and senior Americans to deal with many of today's pressing social problems, including health, education, literacy, hunger, and homelessness. In return for their one-year service, young Americans would receive a $10,000 voucher redeemable toward a college education or a down payment on a starter home. The National Service Bill also enables young citizens to enlist in the armed forces and receive a $24,000 voucher after 2 years of service. United States Senator Charles Robb was one of 5 congressmen to introduce the National Service Bill. Senator Robb feels that service in exchange for benefits is needed in today's middle and lower class societies.
The problem today is a lot of our students end up making it through college just barely, but they've encountered so many obstacles and incurred so many loans that by the time they graduate from college, they're way in debt.
The intention of the National Service Bill is to distribute the responsibilities of citizenship equally and fairly among United States citizens. Senator Robb believes sharing the duties of citizenship will restore a balance between public interest and personal gain in America.
There has been a tendency, in particular in this decade, for the pendulum to swing so far to the point that everyone is concerned about themselves first. Most of us would like to think that there's something more than just the accumulation of personal wealth, because that pendulum has swung so far. So we're talking about moving back to the spirit of citizenship, the spirit of having some concern for our fellow human beings,
If established, the National Service Bill would eventually replace most existing federal grants and loans. The idea here is that the government doesn't just provide a handout, it provides an earned benefit. But because the bill is new, some Americans don't understand the concept and are worried about change.
I would concede that there are those who feel threatened. Anytime you propose a change in the status quo, there are some folks that are going to feel threatened, and you have that. But to the extent that people understand what's being discussed here, most of the reception has been very good.
The National Service Bill combines service and benefits for American citizens. But like many legislative proposals, it has the drawback of finances.
It does cost money, and that's going to be one of the real problems in a period of time when we're trying to find ways to reduce spending. This is going to increase spending, but it can be a relatively minor amount in a period that we think can bring a whole lot greater good in the long run.
The National Service Bill is currently on the floor of the United States Congress. Although support is strong, Senator Charles Robb feels many changes will be made to the proposal before a final vote. If passed, the National Service Bill will go into effect on October 1st of 1990. Reporting from the Russell Senate Building in Washington, D.C., I'm Yvonne Elliott for JMU Today.
Amy, I have to admit, I'll be one of those persons in debt after I graduate coming up next month, and I kind of like the idea behind the National Service Bill.
Right, a year's service for, money towards college. It's great. There are many children and students who suffer from learning disabilities. When we come back, we're going to take a look at a department here on this campus that helps these special students. Stay with us.
Are you sure? Relax, kid. I've been through meetings like this a million times. Just follow my lead. Go with the flow, Stand up to them. There's nothing to be afraid of. Just roll with the punches.
Mr. Haskett will see you now.
From job stress to joint ventures, there's a better way to get consumer and business information. NBC comes to cable with CNBC. All you need to get through your business day, 24 hours a day.
The Channel 8 News team goes all over Fairfax County all hours of the day, but we are looking for more. Do you have a human interest story that could be an inspiration to Fairfax? Have you been on the scene of an accident with your video camera? Are you concerned about regional issues? News 8 wants you to contact our tipster hotline. Call 849-8430 and ask for the news department. Then tune in to see the coverage on the Fairfax Evening Report.
The U.S. Department of Education had planned to start subjecting their 3,000 employees to drug tests April 21st. This move was halted as the American Federation of Government Employees sued the department March 25th. Ironically, the Department of Education is requiring all colleges to install anti-drug programs during 1989, but has not issued any guidelines to determine what kind of program would be acceptable. The news office for the department has refused to comment on the drug testing suit by their employees.
Learning disabilities can create stumbling blocks for average students in their educational careers. Field producer Paul Baker takes a look at this hidden and often misunderstood handicap.
Albert Einstein, creator of the theory of relativity. Woodrow Wilson, America's 28th president. Thomas Edison, inventor of the electric light bulb and the phonograph. These three men, besides being brilliant and historically famous people, had learning disabilities. Surprising as it may seem, learning disabilities are estimated to affect 5% of all Americans. Persons with learning disabilities have difficulty acquiring, storing, and/or retrieving information because of inefficiencies in their learning processes. Dyslexia, for example, makes reading a difficult task. Imagine trying to make sense out of this sentence when actually this is the correct statement. Learning disabilities have serious effects on students as they go through the education process. Sophomore Melissa Reardon explains her handicap.
I have dyslexia. When I was little, I had problems with my letters being rearranged, and when I still read today, I would see a word and would put an L in there when it's not there, or an R or something. And then when it comes to tests, if the question isn't written out exactly like I read it, then it's like I don't even know the answer, even though I could know it if I talked to the professor about it later.
If surviving in school is challenging, then getting in is just as tough. Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, which states the handicapped person's rights under federal law, does not allow quotas for admissions of handicapped persons when applied to post-secondary settings. Learning disabled students must compete on the same level with everyone else. Coordinator of Disability Services, Carol Grove, works closely with LD students.
We sit down and we work out a very individualized plan that will help them succeed in college. That might be academic advising, early registration to make sure they get in the right classes with the right instructors, and take a proactive approach. We want to prevent it from happening. We want to prevent them from having problems.
Having a learning disability does not necessarily indicate that a person will achieve any less than someone without this handicap. On the contrary, learning disabilities only apply to those of average or above average intelligence. The potential is there for anyone to become the next Edison, Wilson, or Albert Einstein. For JMU Today, I'm Paul Baker.
I know it must be very difficult to have a learning disability, but is it encouraging that they can make it, people with learning disabilities, to the college level and beyond, because they're helped pretty much every step of the way?
Right, every step of the way, from, elementary school to junior high, every step of the way. That's great.
It's good to have those sort of programs.
That's right. Coming up in sports, Kathleen Franklin is going to take a look at college recruiting.
Sports Fairfax is your show here on Channel 8. Hi, I'm Jeff Riley.
And I'm Rob Michael.
This week we'll take a look at Centerville Key League Baseball beginners, the Brewers, and also Super Cycles, a unicycle group from out in Chantilly. They performed at the White House.
Also, we'll be looking at the co-ed sports organization as they took place in flag football. We caught that this past weekend. And we'll be looking at the Cherry Blossom Invitational Skating Competition.
So tune to Channel 8 Thursday at 8 p.m. or Friday at 5:30 for Sports Fairfax.
Are you bored with your afterlife?
We're very unhappy. What did you expect? You're dead.
Then there's only one name to call.
Beetlejuice?
I'm the ghost with the nosebleed.
You want a cigarette? Oh, no, thank you.
Michael Keaton.
Can you be scary? What do you think of this?
You like it? Beetlejuice.
I'm feeling a little, anxious, if you know what I mean.
Catch a glimpse of someone great in April when the Nostalgia Channel presents...
Well, what do you know? It's me.
And other greats from the early days of live TV, like the very first George Burns and Gracie Allen show, and Jack Benny.
You didn't frisk me so good when I came in, did you?
No. No, when I put my hand in your pocket, I found a dollar bill. I got so excited, I didn't look at it.
Bob Hope, Milton Berle, and Jimmy Durante.
Watch Channel 8 in April for nostalgia.
Top Event features fine films.
When I was 16, I re-established a relationship with my mother for about 4 years. She taught me music.
I hope someday you'll join us.
We were getting so close.
Imagine John Lennon through this motion picture portrait drawn from his private collection of film and music. Imagine John Lennon.
To rent this Top Event feature, call 263-1989.
If you live in Virginia and own a pet, there's some new legislation of which you need to be aware. Field producer Melinda Norfleet has more.
In January of this year, House Bill number 933 passed in Virginia on pound seizure. Pound seizure is the practice of selling or giving unclaimed dogs and cats from animal shelters and pounds for use in experimental research. As introduced, the bill would prohibit pound seizure completely. As passed, it prohibits pound seizure of only those lost animals which are identifiable. One place lost animals can be found is the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, or the SPCA. The SPCA takes in the lost animal and cares for it while trying to find its owner or place it in a quality home. SPCA employee Linda Barber says that one of three things can happen to an animal there.
If they're strays, they're either reclaimed by owners, they're put up for adoption, or they're euthanized.
The most important aid in finding a lost pet is proper identification.
A lot of animals do not have or wear identification of any sort. This makes it very difficult to find the owner. According to House Bill 933, any dog or cat not having proper identification can be sold for experimentation. Linda Barber says that the owner should be more aware.
We push pet owner responsibility and that pets are not disposable. We're here and we have to do our job because so many people think that pets are disposable items.
The SPCA stresses the importance of putting identification on your pet and the importance of looking for a missing pet right away. The new bill does allow an unclaimed pet to be held for 5 additional days, but after that point it can no longer be adopted. Experimentation is a big concern among many pet owners.
Most people, a lot of people, when they bring animals into our shelter, that's the first thing they ask. If it's not adopted, will it be put to sleep? It won't go for research.
There are many groups and organizations who are concerned about the well-being of animals. One such organization is People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA. This organization works hard to restore and protect animal rights. 2 JMU students have been so inspired by PETA that they have begun plans to start their own organization. Their organization would be called Students for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, or CETA. The students, Courtney McDaniel and Jennifer Collins, say there's not a group like it on campus.
People go through their daily lives and don't even consider the fact of the way that animals are being treated or exploited in our country.
Courtney and Jennifer both agree that the bill is a step in the right direction because it is making more people aware of the importance of animal rights. Courtney disagrees, however, with the stipulation that only identification will save a pet.
I would certainly know that I could identify my animal if it happened to be caught without having any identification on it at all.
Jennifer says that becoming involved with animal rights has changed her life.
Yeah, since I've been involved with animal rights, I've really started to really think about how my life affects other beings.
Courtney, who is a vegetarian, says her change in eating habits began as a plan for weight loss, but soon evolved into so much more.
I don't believe in the needless killing of animals, and I think it would be very hypocritical of myself to eat animals.
Courtney sees the bill as a problem in our society.
If you see killing one life form as being all right, then who's to say that that's not somewhere in the back of your mind thinking about destruction?
The main issue is that of seizing pets for experimentation. As long as your pet is identifiable, it is safe. Pet owner responsibility combined with animal rights activism is indeed a stepping stone to a better future for our pets. For JMU Today, I'm Melinda Norfleet.
Well, this week we called around the area and found that pets in our area do have to have tags for such things as rabies shots to say that they have had their shots, that sort of thing. But there's no law that says they have to have personal identification identifying who they belong to, and I think that's part of the problem with lost
Why
pets.
there's so many lost pets.
Right.
I'm glad that organizations such as PETA and a lot of media personalities are starting to come forward for the ethical treatment of animals, and students are getting involved, forming organizations. I think that's wonderful.
Indeed. Well, we have sports coming up with Tracy Jones, but right now, Active Learning and Yvonne Elliott.
Thanks, guys. This week we joined the 5th Active Learning Luncheon Seminar this semester given by Communication Professor John Woody. John Woody teaches advanced video and sound production and is our advisor here at JMU Today. He uses modern technology available at JMU to aid students in performance-oriented classes.
This semester, Mr. Woody used VideoWorks in his sound production class to present digitized images with sound. These images help to initiate as well as enhance class discussions. Mr. Woody is also experimenting with various technologies, allowing students to receive up-to-date information about the sound recording industry. The simplest delivery technology Mr. Woody employs on campus is the teleconferencing convener. All you need is a phone tap, and you're ready to go. The convener literally allows the students to talk to the experts from the classroom. For example, last semester, his students were able to talk with Steve Singer of Ampex Corporation for over an hour and a half. The teleconferencing unit provides students with connections to experts, producers, and directors from around the world. These connections enable students to seek information about jobs and job openings nationwide.
John Woody demonstrated a form of this teleconferencing at the Active Learning Seminar. He conducted a live audio conference with Gabe Wendelken from the Warren Campus Center to Anthony Seeger. Teleconferencing is a great example of active learning because not only are the students actively involved, but they're using today's technologies. Thanks for joining us, and now back to the studio.
Tracy Jones. Thanks for joining me this week on Sports Search. We've been enjoying some terrific weather here in Harrisonburg, and more people are getting out and playing tennis. The men's tennis team has really shined this past week, winning 2 matches to up their conference record to 4-0. George Mason was the first victim of the Dukes. JMU won the match 8-1. Top seed Mark Bricks won his match 6-1, 6-2, and led the way for his teammates to dominate their matches. Number 2 seed Carl Bell and fellow senior Gerald Sykes at number 3 won as well. The sweep ran down throughout the ranks as the Dukes did not lose a singles match to the Patriots. In doubles actions, the Dukes picked up 2 out of 3 matches and went on to trounce George Mason 8-1. William and Barry couldn't do much better than the Patriots as they lost to the Dukes 6-3. The Dukes' top 4 seeds won as the Dukes upped their conference record to 4-0. Mark Bricks defeated the Tribe's Scott Maxey 6-0, 2-6, 6-1 in the number 1 seed. Maxey was a top-ranked conference player prior to the match. The conference tournament will be held at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. We wish the team and Coach the best of luck, and we'll keep you up to date on their results. Well, speaking of results, the men's track team placed 6 out of 13 teams at the Virginia State meet in Hampton. Claude Gibson placed first in the 1,500-meter run. The women's lacrosse team placed 3rd in the South Atlantic Conference Tournament. They beat Richmond 8-4 in the consolation game. Good note here, JMU players Tracy Snappinger, Jamie Little, Kathy Altemus, and Jennifer Rest were named to the all-conference team. Many high school students are making decisions about college. For athletes, the recruiting season can determine where they will attend. Field producer Kathleen Franklin talked with some JMU coaches about recruiting and filed this report.
Sports recruiting. It's a process that goes on throughout the year, and it's the toughest job a coach has.
Recruiting is the lifeblood of every athletic program, and if you don't have good players, you certainly can't be successful regardless of how good a coach you might be. So this is something that we work very hard at, and we work on a year-round type thing.
It's the difficult task of watching many high school athletes all around the country, charting their progress, their strengths and weaknesses, from as early as their sophomore year until the end of their senior year when they can sign with the university.
A lot of times what we'll do is we'll go see players during the summer. I mean, this is pretty much the regular routine. Today, for example, I'm going to see a sophomore in high school playing an AAU game, which we've already, have heard about, and he's already come to our campus unofficially and talked with us. So the recruiting process starts even when kids are, way down sophomores in the country.
According to head football coach Joe Przicki, football goes through a similar process.
This time of year, right about now in the spring of the year, we mail volumes of letters to 7 states where our basic recruiting areas are. And we ask the high school coaches in those 7 states who their top prospects are who are juniors. They'll send back prospects who we'll label either A's or B's, which are really scholarship candidates or invite-on candidates, which would be non-scholarship.
When an athlete is eligible to sign, a university courts the athlete, showing the best it has to offer.
We only have 85 visits to campus, so we have to make those count. So we have to be sure that there's a mutual interest. We're interested in the candidate. He's interested in us. That candidate can only go to 5 schools. He's got 5 visits, paid visits, that he can go to. And at that time, we try to get our top candidates to visit. And in that crucial period, from November to February 15th, which is a signing date, you kind of court and woo these student athletes.
In basketball, the coaches are only allowed to bring in 18 potential players to officially visit the school. This month, JMU is finishing up its last signing period of the school year. It's the politics involved that makes sports recruiting so difficult. As Coach Mormon says, recruiting is the hard part. After that, coaching is easy. For JMU Today, I'm Kathleen Franklin.
I'm sure that Coach Babcock is pleased that he recruited Brian Kimmel.
Yeah, Brian Kimmel, there you go, Amy. Way to go. Brian Kimmel pitched a perfect game. He threw 83 pitches at the minimum 21 batters. He struck out 4, and because he's such an awesome pitcher and pitched a perfect game, he was named National Player of the Week by the Collegiate Baseball Magazine.
It literally came right down to the last batter with a full count.
It did, a full count, 3-2, he's up there, he throws outside curve, strike 3. Man, it's such a perfect game.
Great. Well, you're liable to see this phenomenon at any college university in the U.S. It's a tradition as perpetual as the changing seasons, known as the pickup. And Harrison Clough gives us a look at the pickup.
Spring is here and love is in the air. Or is it love? With warm weather comes heightened skirts, lowered inhibitions, and increased interest in the opposite sex. Emphasis is placed more on the look than the person. And when both sexes are trying to look their best, it's natural that they come together. Hence the pickup. No, this isn't exactly the type of pickup I was talking about. Come on, you know what I mean. I'm talking about picking up. You know, hooking up, scamming. When JMU students are asked for what they find most attractive about the opposite sex, their answers are what you might expect.
I guess I'll look at the eyes first.
That's pretty easy, man. I have to say tight eyes, most likely.
I'd say when a girl can take her tongue and touch her nose, that's what I like.
There are many spots on and off campus where these features can be observed, such as the Hill, or Players, or JM's, or... oh, sorry. When students tire of drooling over each other, they act on their hormonal desires. Creative thinking is essential when coming up with a pickup line, but when it comes to rejection, a few words are all that's necessary.
Hey, would you ever consider hooking up with a complete stranger?
No, I don't think so.
Have you ever considered hooking up with a complete stranger?
Yeah, let's get in my room.
Okay.
For JMU Today, I'm Harrison Clough.
Yes, spring is in the air.
Poor
You can tell,
Harrison.
can't you?
Poor Harrison. Tough assignment there.
Boy, I tell you. Well, I noticed that people are all over the quad blowing off classes now in springtime, and I think I've seen some
Bert
picking
Morris
up.
on the quad.
Any used any of those one-liners, Bert?
I don't know any one-liners. Maybe you could tell me some of them.
I've heard some good ones.
I bet you have. Well, have a good week.
We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us.
These companies have provided their support to JMU Today. Pacific Data Images, specializing in animated graphics. Showalter Signs and Silk Screening in Luray, the neon sign company for the Shenandoah Valley. And Virginia Broadcasting's WVIR-TV, Channel 29, Charlottesville.
Sports Fairfax is your show here on Channel 8. Hi, I'm Jeff Riley.
And I'm Rob Michael.
This week we'll take a look at Centerville T-League Baseball beginners, the Brewers, and also Super Cycles, a unicycle group from out in Chantilly. They performed at the White House.
Also, we'll be looking at the co-ed sports organization as they took place in flag football. We caught that this past weekend. And we'll be looking at the Cherry Blossom Invitational Skating Competition.
So tune to Channel 8 Thursday at 8 p.m. or Friday at 5:30 for Sports Fairfax.
Are you bored with your afterlife?
We're very unhappy. What did you expect? You're dead.
Then there's only one name to call.
Beetlejuice?
I'm the ghost with the most in.
You want a cigarette?
Oh, no, thank you.
Michael Keaton.
Can you be scary? What do you think of this? You like it?
Beetlejuice.
I'm feeling a little, anxious, if you know what I mean.
This April, join in the
C-SPAN, the cable satellite public affairs network.